Oh, cool.
I guess my brain's not totally gone, but just mostly.
Right. Welcome to the February 4th, 2026 Planning Commission work session. Tonight, we are going to review the business agenda, which we are going to focus on project CUP-26-002. And 3.2 is project SUV-26-001. Also, we're going to be going over the use table update from Jim on that one. So which one would you like to start on this evening?
We can start with the CUP.
Wonderful. We'll start with CUP 26-002.
Okay.
And Emma will share that one.
Yes, give me 1 sec.
Ends up.
You give
It's a
like
very long
15
second.
seconds, then
It's a
breathe.
very long second.
Okay. Ready?
I know, quiet from the peanut gallery.
I know, it's all good. All right. So CUP 26-002, the applicant is Spencer Thomas, the property owner is Dan Northrup. And the request is a conditional use approval for the operation of an emissions testing shop located at 1344 East Port Union Boulevard. And then staff has reviewed it and would recommend approving with conditions. And here is a site map. Let's see. So again, the applicant seeking approval to operate Emissions Plus, which is a test-only vehicle emissions testing facility at 1344 East Port Union, and this is located within the regional commercial zone. The business would be solely for emissions testing and optional DMV renewal services, and customers would remain in their vehicles throughout the process, and there would be no vehicle repair or maintenance proposed. The business plans to operate Monday through Saturday, serve approximately 20 to 40 vehicles per day, and staff to employees on site. There wouldn't be any proposed site modifications at the time besides just removing the boards from the windows. So code 1940-030B allows motor vehicle service related uses as a conditional use within the CR zone. This proposed emissions testing facility would qualify under this category as it doesn't involve any outdoor repair or storage. Additionally, there is an existing emissions testing facility, Jiffy Lube, right across the street, and it is also located within the same zoning district. And then conditional uses are governed by 1984, and they can be approved if potential impacts can be mitigated through conditions. And then the applicant also provided just a traffic flow diagram and parking as well, just showing that they'll be able to keep all the traffic just within their own property, and they won't have to rely on the adjacent parking lots.
So
yeah,
I'll just start.
yeah.
So is there the flow here is, because one of my questions is whether when the car is being emission tested, whether it is contained inside. Because I mean, you look, I looked at the building today and it just looks like it's still like the convenience store part and
Yeah.
where the gas stations used to be. I don't see, or are they using the old car wash?
I think it is. So they're keeping the existing structure, and basically like where the old gas pumps would be. I think that's where they're doing it. So it's like underneath the canopy.
But it's not enclosed.
Yeah, it's not enclosed. Yeah.
I mean, I'll just jump into that is a concern for me because of the pollution and the emissions involved. Jiffy Lube is contained. So anyway, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Really quick on that.
Yeah.
Do we know that they have all the right of ways in the adjacent parking lots to allow for this circulation?
So
across
the circulation
traffic easements?
that they proposed, it just goes right onto Fort Union Boulevard. Initially, they had proposed using the adjacent parking lots for traffic flow, but I think the northern section is Fort Union Boulevard. So right now they only propose using their own property.
So, okay, so I guess on page 2, I see use of
So yeah.
additional properties to the west.
Like the mayor.
No, you get, yeah, this is looking west.
Oh, yeah, I
You
think,
come
okay,
in here,
they did update that, so sorry, I might not have reflected that in the staff report, but they had initially proposed going on to the adjacent, like there's a big parking lot right there. But then they updated their traffic plan, so now it should just be contained within the property, so I might have missed updating that.
Okay,
but they did say it will all just be that
Within
same,
their property.
yeah.
So there is a little curb cut right there.
Mhm.
So I guess how are they going to prevent from going that direction and vice versa?
I don't know if I don't think that they address specifically how they would prevent people from going. I guess technically a car could still drive through there. I know. There's nothing currently to block there and they didn't propose anything. So that could be something to consider.
So in looking at the flow of traffic, looks
Yeah.
like it comes in, goes to the first bay. How do they get to the second bay, which appears to be at the top of there are two different inspection bays, right?
Yeah,
There's 20 feet right there. Right behind.
Oh, they can,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I see that, yeah.
I think my only concern is just seeing this diagram here. I know that the left-hand turn out of that space, if they are utilizing that western entrance, left-hand turn is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we're just adding additional traffic there and just different flow, I mean, this has been vacant for quite some time, so it's just something that we might want to look at.
yeah.
And then also maybe appropriate signage
You mean like
on
enter
the
and-
enter and exit areas there with, is it within our jurisdiction to blockade that western entrance under the conditional use?
I don't know.
There may be an existing easement already there for cross access. So if there is, then they would.
What entrance and exit would have changed from when the service station was there?
I don't think it has, but I think we're trying to make it better.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also the amount of the volume of traffic in that area has gone up exponentially.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think we need to take advantage of the fact that it's an improvement of the property and improvement maybe like it's a scary left turn out of there and maybe it's no left turn or
Right turn only, yeah.
I don't know what the answer is, but that area is
Yeah.
prone
Is
to challenges.
It was right turn only that would prevent.
That might be the easy thing.
Right turn only, and then you'd probably want to do. Even if you come into that second bay. Coming in from the west, exiting. Even that left turn. Gets crowded,
For sure.
not as bad as the west entrance, but. It gets crowded. And then you have the mailbox, et cetera, and all that. People coming into Trader Joe's, it's gonna get really crowded there.
It's a tricky left-hand turn.
Yeah.
I've never made it, but I've just observed.
My husband's made it. It's a tough one.
And I don't know that we can do anything about people going westbound and turning left into there, but I think we could address people exiting.
Yeah, I'd
onto
agree.
Ford Union.
Cause I feel like currently with the whole shopping mall, people are still taking the really tricky left turn there anyways, and yeah, this would probably be a fraction of the rest of the traffic taking that crazy left turn.
But I do think enter and exit, that's a good point. I think that we could like that as a condition. Write it down.
Okay.
How long did it take? Maybe 20 minutes?
I don't know, they just said that they'd be able to get through 20 to 40 cars with 2 employees throughout a day,
I'm
so.
just curious 40 cars in a 8-hour day, there could be times when they're staging the cars where they're gonna back up all the way to the entrance area.
They've got those parking spots, all right?
Yeah.
We're counting, so I think they could.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I
Yeah.
see, at the very end,
Yeah, I think they've
Sorry,
probably
we
listed
start
11
shooting?
of them.
Yeah.
there's 1, 2, 3, 5 or 6 or so.
I think, and then another flap, yeah, so it should be 11 total.
I have a question about the fact that we will have,
Okay.
gas station, gas pumps that will no longer be used. And I'm curious if we have a process for how non-used gas pumps are gonna be handled. Because that is quite a responsibility for whoever's coming next to just have it not be completely, whatever mitigated is. I mean, we've had that in other parts of the city, like up by Rooted. I mean, there used to be where the Persian restaurant is. Well, actually, yeah,
And that
the
was
Chevron that was,
Chevron station.
so I mean, I just don't know what our process is, but just like having people drive over the top of that just may not be the best. From a hygiene standpoint, we just haven't dealt with that as a city, I don't think. So I'm curious Because we've got a few of you that have experiences from other cities. So how do you
I
handle
believe-
when it used to be a gas station and now it's not? Are we just gonna pave over it, pretend it doesn't exist under there, or how do you mitigate that?
The tanks, you mean?
Yeah, the tanks
And
that
the
are,
tanks are still buried. And
Still there.
you probably got a way to fill the tanks again. I doubt they tore that out.
That I don't know. I know the state had specific standards for underground
yeah,
tanks, so unless someone's redeveloping it, I don't know if this would trigger them to do anything with it.
well, but they're not using it for its intended purpose, right? They're just gonna sit vacant and people are, I mean, I would see that as a potential hazard that the city has responsibility to at least address in some form.
Are you talking about the things that are above ground or
Below
the
ground.
underground?
Below
Ground
ground.
storage.
So that's typically regulated by EPA state push for that. And typically what will kick that is when they do shut down, there's usually kind of like a lockdown process,
Mhm.
especially with gas stations. They've started doing it with dry cleaners as well, but another thing that would kick that is going to be an environmental study, which would be required by a lender potentially. I've never run into the city managing that just because state kind of has that jurisdiction, just in my personal experience with it. I think it's typically out of the city's purview.
For sure.
Um,
But I do think that we can request that we have documentation that they followed appropriate protocol to just make sure they follow the law. Because I do think that, I mean, I think it's reasonable for us to ask the question, if we're responsible for a rezone. We're not gonna be the regulating body. We're not gonna, but simply to say, just, if you can just show us a certificate that you did it, great. We're not the entity that's gonna evaluate it. Just to simply say it got done. I think that's reasonable. And I mean, just what are other cities doing? And I would just ask from a hygiene standpoint, let's just find out. We're not the first ones to change a gas station to something else. What's the best way to handle that?
Yeah, generally it's, if you're not changing the development, like changing features on the site, that it doesn't trigger any additional reviews. If they were tearing down the building and starting over, that would require them to remediate all that stuff. But I don't know, they may have already removed the tanks, underground tanks from when the gas station closed.
If they did, they
With
did
the
it
state.
dark of night and did it quick. I've never.
Yeah, so I
I
don't
drive past there
know.
every day and I never saw
This is
anything
good.
like that.
But that would be up to the property owner to figure out. It wouldn't really be the city's purview unless they're requesting a development there, then we would get involved.
If we just ask for some letter or certificate of compliance that they've done whatever it is the state says they need to do.
We could ask them that. I don't know if we could condition their approval based on that, because it doesn't really relate to the request for operating.
Are they the tenant or the land or the owner? Do we know?
Yeah, with
They're a
their
tenant.
tenant and an owner.
I'm just
Spencer,
curious if we're aware of a potential hazard. I just think, I think it's incumbent upon us that if we're aware of a potential hazard on a piece of property, I'm not sure what our liability is or what our responsibility is, but I'm just calling attention to that, and let's just make sure that hygienically we made sure that whoever it is responsible, that we've asked that question.
Yeah, we can find out.
Is there any certification that the city offers with the building department with different types of soil testing within any type of redevelopment? Is there any requirement right now?
It would be whatever the building code requires.
Okay.
So,
For
I
the
know that
soil
this-
testing, now only, building department, most time the request will only when you tear down the existing structures. And they will let you support it before they pour the foundation and footing to prove that soil can handle the new structures. But for most of the TI project, they just keep the existing structures. Building department, it's pretty rare to request that. And
So city's not gonna get involved in any phase 1, phase 2 environmental studies? Okay.
Perfect. And then this project didn't receive any public comments. So staff find that this application is consistent with the purpose of the zone, which offers areas for commercial uses that serve the community, the region, and the traveling public by accommodating larger scale, land intensive commercial uses that are not well suited for neighborhood locations. But we do recommend some conditions of approval. So, the applicant shall obtain and maintain a valid Cottonwood Heights business license for the duration of the operations. All client parking shall be accommodated off-street within the existing property, and they should not rely on off-street parking or the adjacent off-property parking lots. Additionally, the business shall be limited to emissions testing and DMV renewal as stated in the application. A building permit shall be obtained for any exterior signage and other alterations to the premises that normally require a building permit. Any exterior signage and other exterior alterations will also need to meet the guidelines outlined in the Gateway Overlay District. Approval of this conditional use permit is subject to review or revocation upon complaint or evidence of non-compliance. And then any expansion or change in the scope of business shall require additional city review and approval.
So,
Question, Emma, do we know how long the lease is that he has signed with Dan?
No, we do not.
there's already signage up.
Yeah, we've addressed this with them, so we contacted them, they said that they're gonna submit for a building permit over the weekend. We did notice when we drove by, the signage was already up, so that is something we've talked to them about.
So I see circulation systems within the development, but the circulation requires external development, and I believe that's either an association there between the two developments, the one to the west and then this one. Since there's two separate maps of circulation
Yeah.
that is in the application, I think it's important for us to kind of consider how the circulation is going to work and if they have the appropriate easements.
Yeah.
Is that reviewed from an easement standpoint or from a right-of-way standpoint in the application process?
Let's see, so I mean, I guess I had brought it up to them, and again, I think I accidentally just included their original circulation diagram. The one in this document is their newest version, so they wanted to just make it as easy as possible, but just showing it only within their property. I don't know if that helps, but we haven't like looked over easements for adjacent properties after they changed their circulation diagram.
Part of me feels, especially with this specific area, that, you know, because we're reviewing this one development and certain access, I think is going to have some implications kind of across the developments. I think it'd be interesting for us to either shut off the access to the west, just to kind of keep the constraints within this development, because the circulation doesn't even show that they're even going to be circulating to the west, and just keep it confined to just this development. Is that reasonable?
What do you mean by shut off? Put up some kind of
Require a
barricade?
barricade.
I think we'd also have to check with fire department and things like that to know whether they could even. That could even be a condition. Cause. It's pretty tight in there as it is,
Well, there may already be legal access rights between the two properties, so. You know, as Emma mentioned, when they submitted that plan initially showing access to the other property, she asked them for that documentation to know if that was the case. And then they just said, okay, well, we'll just contain it all on our property with the revised site plan that you saw here. So I think if you approve the application based on the site plan on the screen, that would be enough, that if it becomes an issue where they're trespassing on other property, if that's not in conformance with what was approved tonight. So I don't know if a physical barrier would be
bring that
needed.
back up again.
But that would be their approval, is that flow.
Okay, so,
Um,
help me, so the top is.
So the top is Fort Union. And then the west is just like a large parking lot that kind of connects to like the whole Trader Joe's and.
There's some sort of FedEx store or something.
Yeah, there's a.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring up all the error image.
Yeah, I can pull up an area.
And then to the east, it's currently,
It's the,
Actually, yeah.
Crepes.
Great
Place.
there's a wall there too. I
Mm.
mean,
yeah, there's no communication between there, but there is communication between the parking lot, that FedEx store. There's a driveway there that a lot of people turn into.
Yeah.
And so if you didn't want people to do that, you'd have to put up a fence. Because they're gonna do what they want to do. You can put up all the signs you want, but unless you put a physical barrier there, they'll do what they used to do with the service station. At least, that's what I do.
Yeah, a lot of people use that entrance to the east there to get into where that mail store is and then Noodles and Company.
I do too.
And then the whole shopping,
Yeah.
that whole strip mall. So I don't,
Yeah, I think just kind of looking at the actual use on this project and if the circulation is accurate. I think that if they're circulating around the building like that, and that's part of their, use. I think it'd be worthwhile for us to at least discuss a closure of that access and see if there is access and I mean, if they just need one access to this, I don't know what that necessarily looks like, but
What's
You know-
the concern if they have access through there? Is there a problem if cars use the other entrance? If that other owner's
Well,
okay with
it-
it?
I
guess.
think it depends on the 40 cars, if they all come, what are the operating hours?
They didn't specify operating hours, just Monday through Saturday. But yeah, there is only 2 people there, so I don't know how many cars.
I would expect that this land use would have far fewer vehicle trips than a gas station would. So it
Yeah.
wouldn't be any more impactful than what was there before. So I just have a hard time justifying closing off an access when it's there now and there may be legal rights.
And the chances they're gonna have 40 callers a day, not big.
Yeah, so I mean, that's like,
They may have a
up to an
steady
hour.
stream, but I don't think there's gonna be a backup and, you know.
I wonder if it may help traffic flow to give people alternatives. I mean, I don't know how the business owners to the west would feel about this, Chair, but there may be some, I mean, if people are squirting through there and then turning right out onto the road, or if there's the left-hand turn is not great, they could potentially cut through. And I don't know how those property owners feel about the cutting through, but 40 cars a day, I mean, that's way less than what the postal place is getting. I don't know how they feel about it. I mean, there may be an argument to be made for the status quo, but I don't know. I could be swayed on that.
2 questions. I would assume that the property owners within, 400 feet got a letter,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no comments, so right?
but no comments. So I would think that if I was the tenant or the owner for where that postal service place was, I had heartburn about it. I'd have brought it up.
I bet the tenants like the activity.
Yeah,
it's
it's,
more
you know,
business.
it's the,
That's their business.
that's the way it's been for
Mhm.
years. And it hasn't appeared to cause a problem when there was a service station there that they had a fair number of cars that visited a day. But I don't know that it was 20 to 40. I never stuck around that long to figure it out. But I don't think it's gonna be a problem. If it were, somebody would have likely complained. At least that's my thinking on it. Great.
Yeah, I just know that's a relatively difficult corner from a circulation and a
Yeah.
turn component. I think pushing more traffic flow to the east side is relatively important. But if we don't see there being any issue or concern with this, then I'm good to.
I do think adding
Conditions.
things like the right turn only signs, I mean, let's try to encourage safer behavior,
Absolutely.
if we can, and if it makes sense to do enter and exit, but I think we have to be careful about that too, because people seeing enter and exit, would they know that that's referring to the emissions place, or confusion arise that that's talking about the whole strip mall, so.
Well, if you have a red light heading eastbound, that left turn heading westbound isn't necessarily so bad if you catch it at the right time, but
At 8
But
o'clock.
we won't, the sign saying right turn only won't keep people from turning left. I mean,
Right.
It's gonna happen.
That's what,
and then you have those guys turning right and then flipping a U-turn and also causing potential accidents.
Yeah.
So,
as with many Utah laws with regards to vehicles, a lot of these are suggestions.
Yeah, we could talk to our city engineers to see if they see any concerns here. Cause I mean, I guess if Fort Union were redesigned at some point, at that time, they would probably reanalyze where the curb cuts are, you know, if there's a barricade to prevent left turns, things like that. So I'm not sure if they would have any input, but we can ask them about the signage and see if that's something that would make sense.
Okay.
And maybe it's just during certain times of the day.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a broken record, but are we calling this a redevelopment,
No, it's just a change of use.
change of use? Okay. The way that it reads in the Department of Environmental Quality is mitigating the risks of redeveloping former Utah gas stations with underground storage tanks involves formal state-approved closure procedures, environmental assessments, and implementing vapor barriers for new construction. Developers must work with the Utah Development of Environmental Quality, the DERR, for site assessment. If they just simply showed us a certificate that they done that, I'm.
But is it required though? In this instance,
I don't
because
know.
they're not doing any development?
Does it
But, well, I mean, I think the intent is that if it was a gas station, it's no longer a gas station, that's the trigger.
But I believe that was the responsibility of the closure. So as the gas station wound down,
Okay,
I believe
I
that
just hope
that
we're-
certificate is
I
required.
hope we're confident that that's the case.
Yeah, we can ask though, the state should have that, and I think Unified Fire generally gets those as well.
And I mean, there's a reporting process to
Yeah,
the fire and to water quality. I mean, there's a number of reporting entities, so.
but we can follow up to see if they've done that.
Thank
Can
you.
write that down, Emma?
Yeah.
For us to do.
Alright, anything else with this project before I close her down?
I think we're
Great.
good. Thank you, Emma. All right, moving on to project SUB 26 001.
Okay, so Sheldon is gonna talk about this one.
Yeah, this is for project number SUB 26-001. Applicant Chris Ensign from Concord Development has requested a plat amendment to the Canyon Center condominiums amended number 1 plat. The property is located at 7367 East Canyon Center Parkway, and staff does recommend approval with conditions. The subject property is located in the Canyon Center Master Development, which is a development with a mix of uses ranging from commercial to residential uses. The subject property has a zoning designation of MU mixed use and is in the Gateway Overlay District. A little background, as you know, the Canyon Center Master Development Plan was approved in 2014. Part of that approval included the dedication of Lot 1 to the City of the Future Park Plaza. In October of 2024, the master plan was amended to remove the office entitlement of the 56,000 square foot office space with the approval of a 36-unit residential condominium building in its place. Part of that amendment did include a completion date for that condominium building, December 31st of 2026. Staff mailed public notices on the 23rd of January, 144 in total. During the notice of period, we did not receive any formal concerns or comments regarding this proposal. The applicant is requesting amendment to Unit 2B of the Canyon Center condominiums, amended number 1 plat, formerly plat 36, previously approved residential condominium units. And established easements and maintenance agreements across lots 1 and lot 2 of the Canyon Center development to provide maintenance agreements for encroachments and parking and pedestrian access. As mentioned, the applicant is requesting to plat these 36 condominium units on Unit 2B of the Canyon Center condominium plat. Upon staff review, condominium, this use is permitted in the mixed use zone and is consistent with the previously approved master development plan amendment.
Really quick, while we're on that page, do you have the original approved plat for 2B?
It's in the packet.
Okay.
I didn't do that as an attachment. in the packet.
Those were in the packet.
I remember.
I'm not seeing the original. Let's see, it's
Attachment C.
Looks like this. Was it B or C? Oh, that's the proposed.
That's, yeah,
So there's attachment
proposed.
C.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Thanks, Shannon.
This one.
So this was the original from the food office building?
Right.
Right.
And that was originally platted for the office.
Yes.
Yeah, so the footprint isn't changing, so it's rather than just having one parcel for the office tower, there's 36 units.
Yeah,
for the-
individual
Yeah.
parcel units. Yeah.
So just to be clear on that, there was no adjustment to the parking flow and that turnaround there.
The part, oh, for,
So the lot, so there was no adjustment to the lot from the original plat.
no,
That's always circulated like that.
Yeah, but the size, the volume, I mean, I'm seeing that it appears that they've drew those parking spots in red and the 4 in green, that's all additional. It
so
appears.
that,
And wider in that access road into the public park, right? Is that correct?
you run that past me again, I'm sorry.
That has all been expanded down and into the public park.
That's correct, yes. Yeah, so the parking stalls here highlighted in pink. And a portion of the public ones that are in green, yeah, those will be those are on lot 1, which will be dedicated to the city.
So
For the
the park,
park.
so the park is going to shrink by about, what is that, 20 parking stalls, give or take?
Yeah, that drive aisle is about 40 feet wide, and that is consistent with the parking agreement that was already approved.
The parking agreement was approved to eat into the park.
Yeah, that's how it was proposed with the parking agreement.
When
I'm
was that
really
approved?
curious. This is gonna be a highly, highly volatile discussion. Because this park was contributed by like at least 5 different taxing entities. And we're turning it into a park strip. So I'm highly sensitive to the fact that we have an enormous, beautiful parking garage. That is at enormous sacrifice from the residents of Cobham Heights, and we decide that's not enough parking.
Was the parking footprint the same as the original? Like,
No.
are the stalls encroaching further into the park than originally approved?
It looks like they're encroaching.
I don't think there's a
Potentially
problem with
by-
the parking spots, but parking stalls. I think it was meant to be a turnaround. I think the initial intent was that it was gonna be an access. This doesn't look like it's big enough for parking. Even then, this spiral configuration, this is gonna be,
So it does show it, that hatched area there.
Yeah.
That's
On-
that outline,
On the original plat,
original plat there.
so it was on there, those parking stalls and that.
Proposed access and parking, PUD easements, not yet recorded.
Okay,
We're talking about.
so on the original plat, and I just want to make sure that we're all looking at the same.
Yeah.
Same exhibit here. So is it sheet 1 of 7 is the original plat?
Yes,
Okay, so that, so on the original plat that we have here, that grayed out area is. The grayed out area is proposed parking. Is that how we're reading that?
yes,
Okay, so access parking and
Public utility and drainage easements.
is that what that's?
PUDE.
Okay, so right now, just so I'm understanding, so that's all going to be proposed parking. The park itself is going to then be to the west and kind of wrap around that turnabout there. And then they're extending parking all the way around the turnabout, but not eating into the public space.
right, so there'll be about 4 stalls that will eat into the parking area, which are kind of already shown here on the original plat. And then I didn't attach the parking agreement, which I should have, which kind of lays this all out as well.
Great. Yeah, so Dan.
Yeah.
Looks like based on original plat, it's not eating into the park whatsoever. It's not taking any of the public amenity away. It's just clarifying and adding parking in that turnabout right there, which I would imagine Fire's looked at that.
Yeah.
And Fire approves that that's going to be adequate turnaround.
Right, yeah, during the initial review, UFA did sign off on.
Okay.
On the plat.
so they've signed off that that's an adequate turnaround for the having spiraled parking like that.
That's correct, yeah, the review, yeah, they approved it through the review.
Okay.
So we're saying 98 feet would be the,
This
The
looks
width of that
really
turnaround.
unique to me, so anyway, but we will have a lot of public comment, I think, when we get to a certain level on this, so I'm not trying to be an alarmist here, but this is really, really sensitive, and as this project is morphed over quite some time, predating 2 mayors, at least, almost 3 mayors. The whole intent, the selling point for the public was that there was gonna be a public amenity, and it just continues to shrink. And I mean, there are the needs of the road, the access road and the turnarounds, and there's a part of me that feels like, if you've got condos, it may almost be better functionally to be able to have a walkout where you walk out right onto grass into a public park, especially when you have underground parking for your residents and their guests. So I don't know. I just want to throw that out there.
But I think Sheldon clarified that there's not any encroachment into the public space, from what I'm understanding here, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but nothing is absorbing into what was not already approved. It's more so clarifying where parking is going. So this is all just original approved, even with the office space. Is that correct?
yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And yeah, and we've reviewed this with Shane as well, because we're in discussions with the record this report about the parking agreements, the access easements, and et cetera. And these were discussed again with Shane and the applicant, and it was found, based off the parking, the parking agreement that was approved, and based off there was no approved plat. The areas shown for parking are consistent with both those documents.
So, well, and especially when we were talking about a business building, the need for that superficial parking makes perfect sense to me. But 36 high-end residential condos, and next to a giant parking garage that sits primarily empty right now. It's an interesting conundrum, and as we're helping the applicant, morph this into something that be financially viable for them. I just wonder if there might be an ability to, as we help him to modify the plan, that we can also, help improve things for the public a little bit. And again, if there's some creativity, I would love to see that on the part of the applicant, to just see what could be done. And I appreciate that it has been grandfathered in. They don't legally have to do anything more than what we've already given them, but I just,
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things about this, and I fully agree with you, Commissioner Mills, on just if they are eating into any of the public amenity, that I would disapprove that. But I think that the benefit of what they're doing here is, if you've ever driven down on a Saturday night through this area, going to Sayola or
yes.
8 Settlers, you've got cars stacked on that outside area. So I think from a guest parking standpoint, also, if they're parking downstairs, I don't think that this parking garage has been open to the public yet.
It is. Well, not theirs, but the other two are the Marriott. and
Correct.
also
The other
Sayola
door, but the one that's below this, I don't think has been. So I think adding that additional parking actually makes a lot of sense, as long as it is not taking away from public amenity.
Well,
Let
and
people
already,
parking on the street.
I mean, if they're gonna do the same thing that Marriott did, Marriott has dedicated their own parking by putting signage up there. It's like, this is only for our folks.
Which
So,
And to
there
clarify,
is
yeah,
required for public parking, if I remember correctly, that Shane
Right.
is working
Yeah,
through.
so yeah, and per the parking agreement, so the stalls highlighted in pink here, for the parking agreement, those are reserved for unit 2B, which is the hotel. The stalls that are green are for public access.
Did I hear you say just a second ago, though, that 4 parking stalls are going into the public?
Yeah, so these additional stalls here. I guess I can find a point here.
That are in between the pink and the green,
Yeah,
those ones?
these ones right here. So these will be on lot 1.
And is that different from the parking agreement, or is that how the parking agreement always was?
So the parking agreement just showed this area as all public parking around the cul-de-sac.
Oh,
So it's grayed out on the original plot, as I can see here.
yeah, but that is over here. isn't it?
Well, then they did this right here. It's keeping the same circumference from what I can see.
But if it's not cutting into if it's not changed from what the original parking agreement was, and it's not encroaching or impacting the public space.
Yeah, as far, yeah, there's just, we got it. They're not encumbering any more property than what was originally proposed.
So in the last discussion I remember on this property with regards to parking, the discussion was how many public stalls were in the parking underneath the building versus how many were going to be for the office building above it. And there was a discussion that they had been given some breaks in their tax wise or construction wise. I don't remember the exact detail. But anyway, there was some parking stalls in that were supposed to be dedicated just to the public.
And that's correct.
Are they still there?
And they still are there. Now,
That's the green, is that correct?
well, no,
Well, no, this
This
is
is around.
under.
Oh, in the
What I'm talking
structure.
about.
I
Okay.
believe there's,
So you got 3 stories in there that we could, could be utilized. And the discussion was that so many of those were supposed to be dedicated to public parking before all of this came about. And that some of those, it was how many should be public versus how many should belong to the office building. Well, that's changed in my mind, that if you had a bunch of businesses, you'd need more parking stalls. If you've just gone to 36 condos, then the business part of it would need fewer stalls, and there'd be thus more public stalls. And the red ones there, I'm wondering, it would be convenience for the people that are staying in Marriott. I get that. But if they've got dedicated stalls already underneath it, why do they need those in addition?
I mean, that is a good question.
That's a good point.
And
Commissioner Shelton have raised a hand and some comment.
Yes, let's
Oh,
answer
that's right.
Commissioner Polson's really quick and then we'll go to Commissioner Shelton.
oh, gotcha. Yeah, so part of the original parking agreement is they are providing public parking within the parking structure.
Yeah,
I believe it was between 120, I'm going off the top of my head, I can't recall specifically. Now I know after they removed the, the entitlement for the office building and went to the condominiums, they did see a reduction in needed structured parking, private structured parking. So that is part of the discussion we're having with the applicant at this time about making more spaces available for public parking within that structure.
And before we go to Commissioner Shelton, if I recall correctly, we increased by maybe 5% as far as the allocated dedicated parking stalls for the applicant. Do you remember the change in parking stalls in that development agreement that we conducted?
Not off the top of my head, I think overall it was like almost 200 stalls, I think they had
And
reserved.
I believe that there was roughly maybe 48 allocated prior to, and then I think we may have granted maybe 55 to 60. I'd have to go back in my notes on that, but it wasn't too much. It was, 5-10% roughly. I would love to get that detailed before going into the next meeting.
Yeah.
But with those 200 stalls, we're looking at about a quarter roughly towards the condos. And I remember we had really good discussions on this a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever this last came across, but I'd like to get that clarification before the next meeting, if possible. Just understand the development agreement, and maybe if we could get the development agreement exhibits just in conversation, that'd be wonderful.
Gotcha. So this is on for decision, the business meeting? So you want this before the business meeting? Is that what you're asking?
If possible.
Okay.
I want the parking, or I want to move it to another meeting. So this is a really big deal.
I guess just to be clear, the parking agreement and all that stuff has already been done and recorded, so nothing tonight is changing anything that's been approved.
But the use of the building is dramatically changing.
But that's already also been approved
Been approved.
through the development agreement and the updated parking agreement. So tonight it's really just condominiumizing the footprint to be 36 units. And any other changes to the development agreement or anything else would have to go back to the CDRA board, council, and you. And the applicant's not interested in doing that. So he's saying, we're gonna honor everything that's been done to date, not changing anything. All we want to do is do the condo plat for everything that's already been approved. So
I've still got.
nothing's changing from anything else.
Commissioner Shelton was on the
Yeah, if we
city
could get
council, so he probably has a lot of history to share.
Shelton on this, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say the conversation has kind of made me wonder if I should make this comment, but one of the major differences here in terms of parking is that when you had a business use there, the public had much greater availability on the weekends where the business was not likely to be parking so heavily in their spaces, and at night when you might be there for events and restaurants and other things. The change of use from office to residential totally flips that. So now it's much more likely that the majority of the units will be parked at night and on the weekends. So it's interesting to me. I guess the question that it brings up in my mind is the condominiumization of this section, does it include dedicated parking to the individual condominium plat or not?
Only what's been approved already through the parking agreement. So they're not making any changes to designations of parking as part of this review.
So my question is, if I buy a condominium there, do I then own a particular set of parking stalls as well that are condominiumized to me?
No. No, it's whatever the parking agreement says. So that the parking agreement allocates or dedicates a certain number of spaces for the residential use. But this plat isn't assigning ownership to each parking stall. That's all handled through the management of the condo association. So that the ownership is strictly just the unit, not the parking as part of this plat.
Okay.
Was that the question?
Yes, I do think there is a likelihood of greater use at the time when it's less desirable to use it. But I also agree that the daytime use will probably be down considerably, which I think is not of much benefit to the public. And I also agree that it's probably not the question in front of us. So thank you.
I'm curious, we haven't really talked numbers of parking stalls with any of this. It'd be interesting to know for me, how many stalls are in the 3 levels of the parking? And how many of those stalls were assigned to the businesses and now are assigned to the condominiums? I mean, for me, if as a homeowner, how many parking places do I need? The 3, 4 tops. Well, there's if you had 3 for 36 units, that's 108 parking stalls to the condominiums. And, fine. But then is the rest available for public? And what floors will they be on? What kind of access will we have to the park from that parking lot for public folks? If that became a problem and I member of the public and wanted to use that, then I'd be really questioning why we've assigned all of those stalls to a business for their convenience when they have assigned stalls underneath their business.
But I think too, this is the parking agreement that we previously approved.
That's correct. They're not,
So we can't change they're not proposing changing that. So we can't, we could ask the questions, of course, but it's not up for discussion or review or to put any kind of new parameter around.
I think when we say parking agreement, we're like anything to do with parking. I think what we agreed to was like 1.4 or something like the typical number. Like, I don't know if there's like some overriding, we didn't review the full layout of.
It was just a number of spots.
It was just a number of spots. Like in terms of parking agreement, we've not done a deep dive. So that part has not materially been examined since this was modified and predating me. So anyway, I'm not saying that we need to open all that up. Part of me is just from an aesthetic standpoint for the property owner. I think the front of those condos will look magnificent as just walking out right onto just an amazing, beautiful little park instead of walking out into an amazing, wonky looking parking structure that's spiraled like that, which means they're going to be pie shapes. And if you've ever parked in a pie shaped parking lot, it is really, really bizarro trying to back out and for people to not get run over. And if the population, the target population is over 65, this is gonna be a rough. I want the property owner to have something that's gonna be awesome. And it looks like we're wedging a bunch of parking spots and it's hard to see the need for that. I understand what's been entitled. So if we're gonna just be like we're handcuffed, this is what we have to do, Dan, I can accept that. But I also think let's help them. I'm hoping that the property owner can see some vision for how this can go. I'm still troubled that Marriott's insisting on having superficial parking spots when they've got this beautiful underground parking situation. That seems like a marketing branding thing. I mean, most metropolitan cities, they don't have the ability for you to pull up right in front, go down underneath, and you can enter the parking structure and into the hotel that way. It's urban, so anyway,
So I think what's
I'll let it go.
interesting about this, and it would be wonderful if we could pull up on the screen a clean version of the original condo plat. Because I think that original concept of condo plat, if what I can see is some of these blurry lines that I'm seeing on this was the plan all along. And I just want to verify that, and maybe the ratios of parking was just a part of the development agreement that was approved last March, whenever that was, March, May. Or actually, maybe that was even,
It's 2024.
that was 2024, maybe that was November of 2024, if I remember correctly. So I would love a clean version of the original plat, because I think if we can see the original, then we can better discern what the changes actually are. And then on top of that, just get a quick high level overview of the development agreement so that we can better understand what we had agreed to and what they are moving forward on. Of course, we can't make any changes, but I think that will help make our decisioning in this and better understand, just because we're condoizing two different stacks here. And similar to that last project that we were discussing, the cross easements and different allocations, as long as legal is in agreement with the distribution of public amenity and parking agreements, I think it's in certain cases out of our purview. Because TIF was applied, there's a lot of different components that are kind of outside of where we are able to regulate. But I want to make sure that we're just seeing very clearly of what original approvals were and making sure that we're making the most educated decision as we're implying conditions over this project. So this is original plat, is this correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so if we were to look at this, that original plat, that grayed out area is meant for parking and utility easement, is that correct?
Correct.
And then the only addition that the applicant is requesting is to condoize building B, 2B, and to add the rest of that pie shape to add parking right there.
Correct.
Is there, outside of that, I know there's a few other, easements that I think are in place. What other changes are we seeing on this plat to the new plat?
So outside of that, there's nothing additional. Now, there are some maintenance agreements we're working through. Now, this is due to the proximity of the building itself to the boundary of Lot 1, which will be dedicated to the city. And being that the case, there's stairs, a ventilation shaft, a planter box, which will be placed on city property. Well, I guess would be on city property once it's dedicated. So we are, again, working with the applicant on that as well, drafting a maintenance agreement to it. For one, we're trying to reduce the encumbrance of that actual of those improvements. I need to get back to the PowerPoint here. I can kind of explain that a little better.
And they're not able to do that on their current site. They're not able to use their current site for the boxes.
No, because
There were some slopes.
there was a
and
slope.
things.
So I think they originally had the entrance up in the center of the building and they moved it down to the south end, I believe. And I might be wrong on that, but everything I've seen, they've had that entrance on the south end of the building. And as I mentioned, it is, let me pull that up here.
Derek, question, do we know how many parking stalls are in the parking garage approximately?
If I remember, it was roughly like 198.
Okay,
I think it's
Is it more than that?
It's like 400.
Oh, I
It
think
should
Or-
be.
In just this building to be.
Yeah.
Typically, an office building would park 5 parking stalls per 1,000 square feet of office space. So that puts us that puts us at around 250, correct, if my math is right, for a 56,000 square foot office building. So approaching 300 stalls. And they are not, I'm confused. Would the public have access to this covered parking garage? That's my first question.
Yeah, and the Canyon Center parking agreement, there are stalls reserved for 24/7 public access.
But we don't know how many, correct?
It is outlined
Yeah,
in that agreement.
Yeah, it was what we worked on
Okay.
when this all turned in from, when they originally came and were converting from office to
So-
residential.
yeah. What I'm hearing is the residential component is gonna have excess parking that doesn't, and there's unused parking that's going to waste.
But again, that's gonna come down to us renegotiating the
Okay.
parking agreement to maybe include additional public parking within that parking structure.
Which
Something
leads
like
me
that.
to ask, why do we need this parking?
Right,
Are the 400 stalls directly under this building, or is that also under the Marriott building?
it's under the building.
Under the building.
So-
400 total stalls
Within that
under
parking
just
structure.
this building.
Yeah, that-
No, it stretches the whole length of the whole.
Okay, so it's under the
project,
Marriott
but it
building.
goes underneath here as well,
Correct.
so you can access.
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Your elevator is, you hit a different button, you go down further.
And there are 3 stories of parking that go the length of unit 2A and 2B.
So technically, they have
So
more
huge.
access to parking than any other building in the whole development. Got access to all 3 floors of parking.
Well,
That's where my brain's at.
and I'm wondering that off of that, what we've already agreed to, the stalls in that agreement, were those stalls to go to 2A? The ones that are in red there?
That's correct, yes,
So that's always been there.
yes.
Okay.
And again, and these were showed on the parking agreement as public access.
Well, those weren't there in the.
Not on
They weren't there in the original.
not on the plat, but in the parking agreement itself, these are shown as public. And I'll take that up and provide that to you guys, that parking. agreement.
I'm confused. The parking agreement then doesn't agree with the plat, the original plat then. Is that correct?
I guess the original plat does not show this as public parking, doesn't show this as public parking,
That was my point.
right?
But the parking
The parking
agreement-
agreement does
Yeah,
show
But it's
this.
public right of way,
Yeah.
so that normally you don't plat parking stalls on a.
Well, no, if it's public right of way and parking, to me, those 2 different things. One I can drive through freely and one I can't as freely because there's cars parked there.
Yeah.
So we've got about 2 minutes before we go over into the business session. Can you do a quick 2-minute overview about the added amenities in the public space?
Okay, so specific to this area here. Now, as I mentioned, just to the location of the building, it abuts the property line of the boundary of lot 1. And as they propose there, there's a ventilation shaft, stairway, a planter box, and there's a electrical junction box here is what they're proposing. Now, as we mentioned, once that gets dedicated to the city, that will be on city property. So we're currently in discussion with the applicant about reducing the encumbrance by relocating this junction box. So when it's out of the way here, pushing it up either closer to the planter box or moving it up to the west, up north, up in front of the building itself, where hopefully we can provide some screening. But those are discussions that we're having with the developer at this time. According to the developer too, they're stating that Rocky Mountain Power puts constraints on the location of this box. They can't place it over here because the grade change from the retaining wall, it's about 12 feet. And then up here, this area here is already encumbered with existing utilities. So they're kind of limited on where they could place it. So they are willing to work with us to relocate this into a better location where, one, it doesn't impede pedestrian access down to the park or cause any issues with any future park amenities that are being proposed in this area here. Because this area, they kind of showed on the conceptual plan that there'd be a climbing wall there. Again, that is conceptual, but then again, we're still trying to make sure we mitigate this so it's not gonna impose, if that's the case, if it does become the climbing wall or some other amenity, there's not a big box sitting in the middle of either the trail or within that, directly in front of an amenity providing for park patrons.
Where was this box going to go
So,
on the original plans for the office?
so originally it was planned to go right here.
Okay, so it's going to be in the public amenity.
Mhm.
We are out of time here. We've got to move over to the business session. We will continue conversation on this. We were not able to cover the use table update.
That's okay. I didn't really have a whole lot to share anyway.
Okay,
so.
wonderful. Well, we appreciate the work that you're doing on that.
Sure.
We do need to make a motion before we move over.
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
I.